Celtics Stuff Live.
Welcome to Celtics Stuff Live on the CLNS Media Network, the leading online provider of audio and video coverage for the Boston Celtics. I'm your host, Justin Poulin. Joining me, John Duke, and things are heating up. We've got the deadline just a couple of days away, John. We've got a matchup against the Lakers after the deadline closes, and obviously that's going to take us to the only Anthony Davis, where I guess he doesn't want to come to Boston, or at least his dad certainly doesn't want him coming to Boston. So we'll talk about that, as well as Kyrie Irving gets some chance in New York City, and they make a big trade, and looks like they're clearing out some space for a big splash this summer. Porzingis heads to the Mavs. And finally, the Celtics 9-1 in their last 10, 4-0. Big win against Oklahoma City. Terry Rozier loving his little spot starts against some of the lower or lesser teams in the league. So, he's gotten it done. I'm sure that'll happen again in tonight's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where Kyrie's already been ruled out. Got a hip injury that he's kind of nursing, and at the same time playing above average minutes in the games that he does play. So it seems to be working for the club. This is probably the best string of basketball we've seen them play yet this season, John.
Oh, no question. I mean, winning 9 of 10, and a lot of that hasn't come against, the iron of the league, but the one loss being against the Golden State Warriors in a really fine game that the Celtics really had a good chance of winning. The Celtics are playing. This is the Celtics we expected to see. I think it's fair to say. This is the group that we expected we would see throughout the season. And after that incredibly rough start, I think that they've met that, and it's interesting because, you go back to those games in Florida at the early part, or I should say the middle part of January, and a lot of frustration. We were frustrated on the show, Kyrie and Jalen, and we're still kind of dealing with that, and that hasn't been far enough in the rearview mirror. But if you look at just what's happened on the court since that point, like I said, 9 out of 10. At this point, they have, the best, some of the best offense, best defense, best net rating since, the time when Marcus Smart was entered into the starting lineup. It feels like that hangover of that 10-10 start just can't escape them. And, you wonder, as we look at the head and all this other stuff, is that hangover more? We keep talking about how, they're not happy and this season hasn't gone as everyone expected. I'm kind of getting sick of hearing that. I mean, because quite frankly, for a more than 2 month stretch here, the Celtics have played pretty good basketball consistently. No doubt we were frustrated about the Florida trip. That goes without saying. But I guess it's one of these things where, okay, they've played pretty good basketball for a long time here. Maybe we should just accept that this is the new mark here. But something keeps wanting to bring up the bad stuff. So, they need to go a longer stretch without those blips in the road, like what happened in Florida, like what happened when they went on the road after Christmas and had another rough patch. But apart from that, the Celtics have been really one of the best teams in basketball since late November.
Yeah, it's great to see them picking it up. They needed to pick it up. They also move up into a tie with Philly for third place in the Eastern Conference. So at least they got out of that fifth place kind of position that they'd been stuck in for a while. I mean, it just shows you how well that they've done. And I know Philly slipped a little bit recently, although they had that big win against the Golden State Warriors. It's funny, my neighbor down the street, I live in Pennsylvania, and he's a huge 76ers fan, and he's like, I don't know what's going on with Milwaukee and Toronto, but this was supposed to be Boston and Philly's show. He's like totally bummed out about it. And, it was a big win for him, the Golden State game. But, Golden State is always good for one of those losses on their East Coast trip. And it always seems to come, either at the hands of the Celtics or the next night. Didn't they lose one to Washington one time right after playing a tough one against Boston and winning? So that's almost like clockwork for them.
It is. It's like, and it just further enhances the desire and I suppose the the glee with which we all would look forward to a finals where the Celtics could face the Warriors, because it does seem like, for whatever reason, the Celtics and the Warriors bring out the best. Certainly the Celtics bring out the best of themselves in playing the Warriors, but it does seem to take a toll on the Warriors. For example, also they lost in Minnesota. Celtics had almost, I think this was the year that they won 73. Celtics had them really behind the eight ball there, and they were not able to pull it out. Then the next night they go on the road and Minnesota beats them. I think they had won like 20 in a row or something crazy at that point.
Yep, that was it.
Whatever it is. I mean, they just have this thing that they just play well against them, and it's a good matchup. And, we can all hope that in June that's the matchup. But it's funny because, all this stuff, and it talks about the character of the team. Great article on the Athletic. Michael Lee wrote about, the fact that, how where Jalen is and Jalen's return and how Jalen is kind of finding his way. And Jalen really has been a key piece as this team has found its way, and Smart has done his thing, and he's said tremendously well.
Ever since he said we have to come together, right?
They have.
They really have. And it's interesting because I think for a lot of people, they thought Jalen was at the heart of the problem, right? So for him to be at the heart of the solution is pretty interesting. Obviously we talked about Gordon Hayward getting some paternity leave on the last show. That certainly didn't happen.
No, but I thought, like I said, I went to the game last Wednesday night against the Hornets, and I think he's been pretty aggressive. I thought New York he looked pretty good. I thought in the Charlotte game he looked really good. Really trying to attack the basket, get to the rim, create, trying to score through contact a little bit more. I still think he's passing out of some of those situations, but I was under the Celtics basket in the first half. Not right. I wasn't like in the, Pagliuca seats or something, but I was fairly close, so I could really see, see those drives and how he's creating space or trying to create space. And I felt like he was really turning the corner on those screens, really trying to get into the rim. I think that waned a little bit against Oklahoma City on Sunday, but I thought he was doing that against New York too. So let's hope that's a sign of things to come. And OKC maybe a bit more of an outlier. To me, it's just about consistency, and we heard that from Paul George
and keeping the team healthy,
trying to do that.
Yeah, and keeping the team healthy. I mean, that's just such the key, right? I mean, they're managing Kyrie the best they can. They're trying to work Hayward back in, but there's still a good chunk of this season left before they have to have it right. So all signs pointing towards progress, which is something that I think all Celtics fans needed to see with just the hype that was coming in with this club. You can follow Celtic Stuff Live on Twitter at CSL_tweet live. You can follow me at CSL_Justin. John is at CSL_Duke. The entire CLNS Media Network at CLNS Media. Go to Facebook.com/CLNS fans and download the CLNS Media app for iOS and Android. Simply search CLNS Media in your app marketplace. Finally, YouTube.com/CLNS Media for high definition, full length locker room interviews, the Garden Report, the Roundtable, Celtic Stuff Live. You can find us there. And we get some commentary on the YouTuber. We get some commentary.
Some of it's positive.
Some of it's positive. Yeah, not all of it, but some of it's positive. Keep it coming, you guys. Keep it coming. So, all right, I think it's time we just dive into the whole New York City thing and let it lead to the Anthony Davis stuff. And then obviously, as we jump out of that Anthony Davis, we have to talk about the deadline that is just literally days away.
Hours almost, really, right?
Really.
And Woj has got a new, as we're recording this here on Monday night, he's got a new piece with some more information, nothing that really pushes the narrative head further, but just the latest in that. And I think, let's just talk about Kyrie maybe to start. I think going to the game Wednesday, I was watching him pretty carefully on the bench. He wasn't playing in the game. He did not come out during warmups. He only came out a few minutes into the first quarter. very quiet, kept to himself, didn't really interact with many people on the bench. Maybe Tatum a little bit with Marcus Morris, a little bit with assistant coach Jerome Allen. Not much, very quiet. Not very animated at all. I talked with some of the writers that we know and really talking about how Kyrie really stays to himself. And so I was really trying to watch the body language. I was really just trying to get a feel for him. And then, of course, Friday morning happens where he goes to shoot around and says, a number of things. And I thought it was, the headline was, check back, July 1st or something. And, I was like, I was in my car as I'm reading this. Sorry, Maine State Police. And, I saw that. I'm like, oh, Jesus, this is it, But when you saw the video, you see a guy who's really frustrated by what's going on around him. I think he's just at a point where, once again, just like he was in Cleveland, he's like the throw-in the story. It's not about Kyrie. It's about how Kyrie's impacted by somebody else. I think it aggravates him. I think he feels like, kind of like a passenger in this voyage as opposed to someone driving his own ship. And I think that's clearly something that's important to him. And so to come off of that, and then of course all the stuff, the chants about Kyrie, him talking about how that's a distraction. I mean, I just walked away from that whole thing with one, I think he still wants to be in Boston. I think he's staying.
He said as much. I mean, he really did try to quiet it. And I realize things do change, but I think as long as, Danny's willing to do what Danny does, which is adjust things and build around it, it's probably going to be fine. It's probably going to be just fine.
I like that idea. And I think that's, look, he has a right to be frustrated with this situation. He has a right to not say, I'm going to come back. I'm going to sign a 5-year, $197 million. I mean, that's just, no one does that, and unfortunately everything else is conspiring to prevent him from really trying to be as upfront and honest, I think, as he wants to be. I think he's honest to a fault a lot of times in his public statements. And I also think he's calculating sometimes. And I don't think he sometimes knows which he's being at any given moment. But I do believe he wants to stay. I think all things being equal, he will stay. But he's not going to box himself into something when so much can happen so quickly in this league. And we see it over and over and over again. In an instant, Gordon Hayward's, leg goes this way. In an instant, who knows? Somebody gets hot and, all of a sudden Jason Tatum is, the second coming of, Dominique Wilkins out there or whatever. I mean, these things can happen fast. And so he's just trying to prepare for all those eventualities. And if the Celtics somehow, flame out in the first round, he's probably not going to stay. But if they make a good run and they play the way we think they're going to, he's going to stay. He's going to recruit Anthony Davis as part of a trade package. And then we're going to see what happens.
It's such a silly season, and we'll, after we take the commercial break in just a minute or two, we can certainly talk about the deadline. And I think we do take that deep dive as far as, what kind of moves might be made around the league. This is one of those deadlines where you really think Danny won't make a move, but we'll get into all of that. But it is, I think it's annoying for players because they're trying to focus in the moment too. Right. And so it is a distraction, everything he said, but you're really just trying to win the games. And as you mentioned about being frustrated with the situation, like just this team trying to get it right. Like this has not been an easy season for this club. And even when it comes to health, trying to keep Al Horford healthy this season, they have all this depth. And so they've survived it just fine, but they expected to be performing at a much higher level and surviving and managing minutes, et cetera. And they weren't. And a lot of times, the guys who were really good were playing, right? And so that's the other thing that makes it really tough for these guys. And so at the end of the day, it just creeps in because it's the deadline. This will all go quiet again by mid-March. It'll be a little hum in the background and it'll go into the postseason and whatever. But, this is part of the media course, par for the media's course. They absolutely have to drum this kind of up to build up to the deadline. And, I guess we can get to that in 1 second. But before we do, another huge week across the NBA, some very exciting matchups, and of course, the deadline on the docket, and Woj getting all fired up, ready to drop a bomb. But there's only one place to get in on all of this action. That's betonline.ag. Sports, casino, virtual casino, you name it. Betonline.ag is CLNS Media's preferred sportsbook online. And if you use promo code CLNS50, you will get a 50% cashback bonus on your first deposit just for signing up. It's pretty incredible, sports fans. And also, we're going to tell you our game of the week. So if you're going to go in and sign up, we want you to make this play. We got Celtics and Lakers. We're going to make our predictions as we always do towards the end of the show. But this is the game of the week. So you got to stay tuned till the end of the show and we'll tell you what our pick is. But I'm telling you, I think we're leaning towards the Celtics. But what an interesting matchup as the two franchises battling to, potentially acquire Anthony Davis, who's now demanded a trade, and then they match up that same night that the trade deadline ends. What a great night of basketball, John.
And on the same night that the All-Star teams are selected, who's going to be on which team in the All-Star game. I mean, it's going to be a crazy night Thursday night,
Yeah.
and that's after the deadline happens. So
exactly.
Who the heck knows?
Tons of hype, and definitely you can bet on all of that. There's nothing you can't bet on these days. So go online or use your mobile phone to sign up today at betonline.ag and try in-game live betting where you can participate with all of the action with every play. And we've also got a shortcut for you. You can go to clnsmedia.com/win. That'll take you right where you need to go to enter in your promo code CLNS50 and get that 50% cashback bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. All right, John. So, we got to talk about the deadline since we basically just teased it. It's obviously Thursday. We'll do our predictions. We'll talk about Anthony Davis, but this is one of those weird years where you pretty much got to think that Danny's holding everything close to the vest. He wants to just make his play for Davis in the offseason, despite everything that his dad has said. Once they meet the organization, once they talk to the people, things like that can change. But right now, if they want him out, they can't go to the Celtics anyway. So if they really want to get a deal done and get him moved at the deadline, there's nothing wrong with this. But a lot of things can change in the offseason. I got to put the odds at the Celtics getting Anthony Davis if he doesn't move at the deadline. I'd put it up into the 80 percentile range.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
Just because of the assets. I mean, you never know. People get crazy, but because of the assets, I feel really good about it.
I have a high confidence. Anything trade related, I hate to feel too confident about, but you're right. I mean, I think getting past the deadline is a main reason why Klutch Sports is acting like a cornered animal at this point. And that's why we're seeing all of this stuff getting floated out there by Chris Haynes and Brian Windhorst and, all these, they're Klutch, Rich Paul, LeBron, the LA folks, Ramona Shelburne, anybody who's, friendly to the Lakers, they're all getting fed whatever they need to get fed to make sure that the Anthony Davis trade market is as convoluted and difficult as possible for the Celtics. That's all this is. You're throwing out names like the Knicks, the
and
Clippers,
gamesmanship,
the Lakers.
Right? You say you don't want to go to the Celtics. Just think about it. That raises the price on the Celtics potentially, pretty substantially. But
sure.
But at the same time, they have all the assets, dude. They have the picks. They've got to use a bunch of those picks now. So that's part of the problem, right? They can't make the deal at the deadline, and then they've got how many? Is it 4 picks in this draft?
Yeah, but
they could spin some off. They could spin some off and pocket them for the trade so that they could be used later.
I don't think they're going to have 4 because of the Memphis. I don't think they're going to end up getting the Memphis this year. But either way, I mean, they have a ton, and you're right. they have an opportunity to use a lot of draft picks, to use the salary value of those draft picks to help. So that, and that's one way in which this will help in terms of the trade, timing. But it's interesting. I just think this is the biggest trade potentially in, I'd say, what's a bigger trade, NBA trade that's happened? I mean, I can't think. The Garnett trade certainly is a huge one. The Harden trade, although we didn't know it at that time that it was this big. A lot of people are saying this is the biggest deal.
Paul George was big, but not big like that.
Right. This is like Kareem level big. This is some of the biggest trades ever to occur of an established NBA star. This is on par with that. And so everybody with this now player focused, in terms of player movement, player focused situation where the players are determining where they want to go as much as possible. This is a very interesting time. And, also the one piece of this is Dell Demps, who's making some of the decisions, at least with the Hornets, or I should say the Pelicans. He's a Spurs guy, and the Spurs went through this with the Lakers a year ago with Kawhi, and we know that where Kawhi landed. He didn't land in LA. So there's a lot of different angles in this. Never mind the fact that the Celtics want to get a great player. Like, that's almost like 5th on the list or 10th on the list that they have an 80% chance, as you said, to get him if it doesn't happen at the deadline. It's like, yeah, but you gotta get through all this other crap just to even get to that point. A lot of
players coming up too, right? Like Durant has an opportunity, Klay Thompson is coming up. Like, there's just a lot of potential movement, in general. So you never know, maybe there's a move to Golden State. You just have no idea what they might package.
Right. And then you've got this whole Kyrie Irving piece, which is, I think a lot of us going into it assume that Kyrie would be the recruiter, and we'd be like, come on, and they're friends, and he would come. And now it's like, well, will he be here? And so that adds a little bit of intrigue to this. I think the Celtics still think he's coming back. I think it's just this public stuff. I think it's Klutch. I think all that's going on. Woj says in his piece tonight that Ainge has directly urged Demps to wait until the off season. That's the first time we've heard that he's, actually said that. But of course he would say that, right? And that Ainge is anxious to trade for Davis and pair him with Irving, regardless of whatever decision Irving makes in free agency. So regardless of what Kyrie does, this is how badly Danny wants him. He's going to go get Anthony Davis no matter what Kyrie does.
He's going to spend, and he's holding all the cards. He has all the assets, and everybody knows it. There's no mystery here. This is the straight up facts. Just the facts, ma'am. Well, just the facts. It's nobody else can offer that.
And that's right. And that's the other piece of this is that, of course, the Lakers, what's reported is the Lakers put Ball, Kuzma, and Ingram on the table with 2 number ones. Well, if they get Anthony Davis, those 2 number ones are second rounders. So you're basically, it's Paul, Ingram, and Kuzma. That's the deal, right? Can the Celtics beat that? Well, so it looks like New Orleans wants what they believe will be a future All-NBA player. Well, we know Jason Tatum would be considered that, but there's nothing in Woj's piece that suggests the Celtics have already put him on the mark, and they don't know that the Celtics will put him on the table in this deal. Could Jaylen Brown be considered a potential All-NBA guy? I think so. I think the way he's played lately shows that's possible. But I think
he's shown he's at least
a much heavier package
as either
if
of
he's
those
the center
pieces.
of it.
Yeah, he's shown that he's at least as good as anybody in the 3 pieces you just mentioned, coming from the Lakers in terms of potential, especially with the athleticism. Then it's off the charts.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you get a top? Let's say that, the Sacramento ends up, a late lottery and, a future, you get the future, Memphis pick. You're going to have to obviously throw in more, probably a surefire all-star that you'd end up having to flip to a third team to get more assets. There's all these different pieces to try to fit that in. Ryan Bernardoni actually, this was kind of interesting. I don't know if you read this, that Danger Cart, who Brian has been on with us, he's floated that he has a couple of sources, I think, within the Celtics to say, yeah, we know about Kyrie and Irving, that's one interest, but there's also, they have interest in bringing Durant in as well. So, I don't know, where that fits in. It feels like there's a lot of steps that have to happen for that to occur.
I just can't do that. I cannot do that again. He's out. He's out.
No. Listen,
he's out.
If it's possible, I'm all for it.
Oh my
God! If you're giving up Tatum,
I can't believe we're having this conversation again.
And Irving. Oh, come on! Listen. If the Knicks of all friggin' places could somehow make it sound like that they're a free agent destination after it's trading away the only good player they've had, and the toilet of a team that they've been for so long, and they're a player. Why the hell else couldn't you put those three guys together in Boston? I mean, that makes a hell of a lot more sense in a logical way than going to play for the Knicks and expecting that. I
agree with that. I agree with that 100%. You just know I have a disdain for Durant now.
I understand. And honestly.
Oh yeah, sure. You front running turd. Now you'll come. But get out of here. I just, no.
Understandable. I get it. No, I get it. But listen, anything that's going to make the Celtics win, I can get behind. Okay.
He wants to be the guy who's like the opposite of LeBron, right? He wants to be the guy who, you know what I mean? Like he wants to take LeBron on. But he's the same dude. He's the same dude. He's just built differently. Like he did.
I don't know. He's the same dude. Nah.
Yeah. He turned his back on his city. He went chasing a championship just because he didn't have the decision because LeBron had already done that stupidity. Doesn't mean that you give credit for Durant for not doing it. You know what I mean? He already learned that was a bad idea from the previous, instance of that. So look, he did the same thing. And then, I'm telling you, it's not like I'm telling you, he's just going to chase rings on a winner. You know what I mean? Which I get. I understand.
Isn't that what Davis is doing? Isn't he chasing rings too? I mean, isn't that what all these great players do? Everyone except for Carmelo who chased the money.
He was already at a contending team. He was already on a good team. He turned his back and then,
but he didn't want to play with Westbrook. Doesn't that matter? I mean, Westbrook, have we seen what he's capable of? Or?
I guess. But I don't want him on Boston. He came here. It could have been the biggest splash ever with him and Horford all signing.
So he made
all these young picks. No, he didn't
make a mistake.
He didn't make a mistake. He didn't make a mistake. He made a calculated decision. It was easy for him. It was easy. It was the easiest way to get a ring.
He's leaving a team where he could potentially win 4 rings in a row. Something Jordan hasn't done, something nobody else other than the 60s Celtics have done. I mean, he'd be turning that down to go play in Boston or, wherever. But
honestly, what would be going wrong in Golden State for him to do that?
But. Well, I think the fact that people like you are like, look at him, cross-eyed and be like, who the hell is this guy to, basically chase rings and not try to be his own man and be the leader of his own team and instead of latch on to something already built. Whereas coming here, Celtics are kind of nebulous. I mean,
this should have been our outtakes. I just can't even right now. This should have been our outtakes. All right, let's make these picks. We got to wrap the show. Plenty more to talk about, especially after the deadline. But let's make these picks. We got 3 games. We got Cleveland tonight. We got the Lakers on Thursday, Clippers on Saturday.
3-0.
Yeah, I gotta go 3-0.
Yeah, I don't listen. LeBron. You never know if he's playing.
Yeah.
Right. The Clippers are good.
And the deadline will be over. The whole thing was he was resting. And then when they thought they had a shot at Davis, they pull him out of the cupboard and make him go play to put on a show. So that definitely could be a night. Although the Celtics are his nemesis team. So
yeah,
there's a big, and he loves playing in Boston. There is that too.
He does.
So there's all right. So what's the probability? I still think they come away with a win because the Lakers are falling off. But what's the probability of LeBron playing in your mind in that game?
That he will play? Oh, I think it's
90.
Yeah, 85, 90%.
Yeah,
I mean,
me too.
I can't imagine that's a game he'd sit out. I think,
Yeah.
and especially with all this Anthony Davis stuff and the Celtics really being on the other side of the bone, for Anthony Davis with the Lakers. I think that it plays out so perfectly for that sort of thing to be all played out, and TNT loves drama, so I think
it's going to be disgusting on deadline night. It's going to be disgusting. It really will be a show. Everybody buckle up. Thursday will be your ride. It's certainly the silly season. We're both going 3-0. They're only 5 games out of first too right now. It's not like they're just way out of it. It's
and
only 3.5.
3.5 out of second. So they've got 30 something left to go, 35 I think left to go.
Totally
3.5
doable.
back. They could if they get to the second seed, I'm happy. I think that would be.
Yeah, first is going to be tough, but the
tough.
Second seed is totally doable.
Yeah,
and they've gotten close a couple of times and then fallen off, but I just don't think they're going to have that crazy just drop off like they've had already this season. I think they're steady enough now.
The trick is on the road. They're going to start going on the road. They have a big long trip after All-Star break.
And they haven't been able to do those trips.
Absolutely.
You're right.
That's to me, that's the last.
They can do the regional home and away and get the away game, but these long trips, when we thought the team would come together, just hasn't happened yet. So maybe, just maybe, this next road trip is the one where they put it all together, and then they've got the final quarter of the year to be able to lock it out. But
that's right.
That's going to do it for this week's show. The broadcast will be available on the demand on the CLNS Media mobile app.
On the demand.
On the demand. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @CSL_Justin and at @CSL_Duke. It was a late Super Bowl night last night, my man. I'm just telling you. A heartfelt thank you to everybody for tuning in. And remember that you can help support the show by subscribing to Celtics Stuff Live on iTunes and Stitcher. We'd love it if you gave us a rating and a review. Your feedback is important to the show. And for who, John, who is it?
Sammy Elias,
executive producer Larry H. Russell, the founder, CLNS Media, Nick Gelso, and my co-host John Duke. Who?
Nick.
Had you never met? All right, that's our outtakes. Let me close this.
Go ahead.
Nick Gelso and my co-host John Duke. I'm Justin Poole, and thank you for listening to this week's edition of Celtics Stuff Live.
Celtics Stuff Live.
Sorry.
Dude, you're right. You're talking all over me. And then wait, but you had never met Nick in person?
Never.
You just met him for the first time.
It was the first time. I was at the game. I texted him. I said, "Hey, I'm here, blah, blah, blah." Halftime, we hung out, broke bread. It was great.
That's cool, dude.
I didn't have a CLNS jacket to wear to kind of.
Oh, was he wearing his, dude? He loves that.
He was.
He looks good. He looks good.
You gotta show the merch. I get it,
Oh, that's funny.
He's gonna join us. We were trying to get him on tonight, but he's gonna join us here. Hopefully
the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Maybe even after the dedeadline. So yeah, it was great. Got to say hi to a whole bunch of people. Saw,
Did you see Gorman again or not?
I didn't know. He was busy. I was.
Yeah, it's tough to pester him. Yeah,
but saw Jared Weiss, Corrales, Jay King, had a great chat with Jay.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
The kid. And this is a good time to give a shout out to our guy Scott Souza too.
I don't know what's going on.
Nope, we don't. But we do know this. Scott's a good man. Scott's going to land on his feet, and I'm sure he won't be long, but Scott did a lot of time on these airways with yours truly and yourself and JB. And we had a great time having Scott on.
He was basically him and Eric Weiss were our two staples.
Absolutely.
When this show kicked off, 15 years ago? 14?
Long time ago.
14 years ago. That's how long we've been doing this.
Almost got his driving permit at this point.
Dude, 14 years.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
Nick's like, yeah, they still remember you guys around here. I'm like, well, I remember Justin because he was down there every 5 minutes, but some of them talk to me too. But it's true. I mean, we've been around a long time, and so it's great. So it's unfortunate to see, Scott, is no longer
Yeah, it's a
doing
travesty.
that. He's a good man. That we always said that, on the show is that a lot of these folks that we have on here, there's a lot of people on other beats that, you just don't want to deal with. But I think without question, everybody that we dealt with and had on the show was always eager and willing to come on and talk to us, even though we're just some podcasters.
They were very welcoming. It was like, well, let's just talk about it. And the other thing was that there really wasn't a voice for the Celtics,
right,
until the Durant trade either. And so, we definitely provided an opportunity because I know every one of them
trade.
wants, right. What did I say? Durant?
Durant trade.
It's in my head. Dude, now I'm going to hate him for that even more.
Yikes.
It's
Yikes, guys. Oh my gosh. Well, in a way, it was the Durant trade in a way, because if they got Durant, they weren't going to make a deal.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
There is
tied to it. He's been tied to it all along. Right. Well, either way, all I was going to say was they were all very gracious to come on. We gave them an opportunity to talk about something, because I know everybody says, "Oh, we're not fans," but come on. You get into that locker room, you cover this team. Maybe I suppose if the one person I might have said no to would have been, Mark Spears, because he was an LA boy. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't grow up in the area, but the rest of us, there's always just that little soft spot. You know what I mean? Sure. So you're not rooting for the team, and you're not, lobbing softballs because you're a homer, but there's a little party of that, has really got it for the team anyway. So people like to talk about what they love to do, and they love to cover the team. And, I felt like we gave a little bit of an opportunity, but I think where it really was the most impressive was the loyalty after that.
Right.
Once there was tons of places for them to talk, and they could even get paid to go talk about it.
Yep.
They'd still come on for free on our show.
That's right. And they were, they're good people. A lot of them, Forsberg and when, before Forsberg was ESPN Forsberg, and, Scott and Jess Camerato. And I mean, we had some of those people in those early days who have gone on to other big things or small things or things not even in the world of journalism anymore. But Scott was among the best of them in our early days. In just always being willing to come on and chat, and a real good man. So we wish him well and hope he lands on a.
Somebody better pick him up. Somebody better pick him up, because
he's smart.
He's really bright.
Yep,
really bright. Yeah. All right, that's gonna do it. I'm out. Peace.